Hi everyone, I hope everyone is doing well. Sorry for the lack of videos and content for me lately. Life has been good, just been super busy and spending time offline. So back in August of 2025, I started making short reviews on a few indie games I've played over the years. Some of them I've streamed on my Twitch, some of them I played over a decade ago, and it's been a lot of fun just revisiting these niche titles. These are games that I think are really cool and deserve a spotlight and a mention, but maybe not enough content for me to make a full video on. That's not to say I won't ever come back and do extensive reviews on these games someday if I feel like it. But I want to continue to use my platform to recommend these fun little indie games to you all, and maybe there might be something you'll enjoy here. For this compilation, I made the videos in full screen so you can all witness the glory of 16:9 and not 9:16. I made some slight edits from the shorts versions. But without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy this compilation. Toree 3D is a fast-paced 3D platformer where you play as Toree on a quest to get back his stolen ice cream cone from this little glitchy Grim Reaper guy. On a gameplay level, Toree 3D only has two buttons, a jump and a dash, making it fairly accessible to anyone regardless of skill level. Toree 3D has 9 levels that are all roughly 1 to 3 minutes in length. Of course, this will depend if you're like me and you mess up a bunch of times. Skill issue. Despite 2 levels sharing the same visual themes, all 9 of the stages provide enough differentiation to where they all don't feel too similar from one another. For example, Sea Mama's Harbor has a giant squid moving platforms up and down, and Windy Ocean has a section that is very reminiscent of Metal Harbor from Sonic Adventure 2. There are a set number of star collectibles in each level which are completely optional, but add a level of exploration within each stage. Platforming is fairly simple. I wouldn't say there are too many difficult moments within Toree 3D. That is, unless of your speedrunning levels, then buckle up and get ready to restart again and again and again. You can go at these levels at your own pace, but what makes this game special is going at these as fast as possible. The shortcuts, the little jumps, running on conveyor belts, flying through wind fans, and finding ways to shave off seconds just to get a rank above is just exhilarating. I will say, however, that the game does far too many instances of waiting for a platform to be within your reach for my liking, but these levels were still a blast to, blast through. There are also 2 unlockable characters for collecting all the stars and for achieving A rank on every level. The presentation is also very pleasant and very reminiscent of 3D platformers of the late 90s and early 2000s with its low polygons. Also, Toree is just really cute. Look at this little guy. And on the snow levels, he's even got little earmuffs and a scarf. Adorable. The levels are also very colorful and easy on the eyes. I never felt like the saturated colors distracted my attention. Toree's yellow and pink color scheme really pops out from each environment distinctly well. Also, the soundtrack here just slaps. The music is so exciting and fast-paced, keeping the player hyped and energized in every level. Also, Toree's squeaky shoes and the sounds he makes are just precious. Toree 3D isn't a long game. A casual playthrough can be finished in about 20 to 25 minutes. However, if you're trying to speedrun and 100% it, then you're looking at roughly an hour and a half. This, of course, will depend on skill level. Toree 3D was released on itch.io on March 20th, 2021, and on Steam, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One on April 9th, 2021. The game was developed by Cyectro, which have made Super Kiwi 64, MacBat 64, Beanie, and of course, the Toree sequels. The game retails for 99 cents, and I think it's well worth your dollar. If you're looking for a fun, bite-sized 3D platformer, I encourage you to check out Toree 3D, and while you're at it, the sequels as well. Subsurface Circular is a narrative adventure game where you take on the role as a detective robot on an investigation within the subway. Your main objective is to find out the disappearance of a missing tech named Tau 13. As a tech with high intelligence and programmed by its human management, you're confined to only the subway cart. As you ride within the subway cart, you're given new techs to talk to. Some who'll communicate with you on your investigations, while others are jamming out and disassociating. Which, honestly, same. You're given options on how you go about your investigations, and how your traveling companions will react to you. Some robots will provide key focus points, such as bringing up how some techs have suspiciously disappeared, or how humans feel discontent and hostile towards their kind, adding new mysteries to the greater narrative at hand. These focus points can be used to communicate with other train riders to pry information off of, or to solve puzzles to progress further into the story. Subsurface Circular does a really good job at world building, as these techs are just average citizens in this universe, getting from one place to the other as they share anecdotes about their lives, their occupations, or what they're programmed to say or do. Some techs feel content with their situations, while others are treated as second-class citizens. Some share their concerns and wariness of their human overseers and their prejudices, or even flat out owned by them. In a world where every big tech company is shoving crappy AI features down our throats, this will be the one time where I'm siding with the robots here. There are a few optional instances where you can help out some of the techs with their problems as well, like helping the researcher find the right train stop. Without spoiling the story, Subsurface Circular does have 2 endings to the mystery. The presentation here is really cool. I love how colorful and futuristic each of the robots on the subway look, and while the entire game is locked to just the subway cart, it never overstays its welcome, and each chapter changes up the lighting and color, which sets the tone and mood and keeps the atmosphere interesting. You do spend a majority of the time staring at, well, this much of the screen, but the UI is sleek and pleasant to look at. There's not much music to note here besides the chapter transitions with its use of chill synthwave, but the subway ambience does a really good job at immersing the player into the world. Subsurface Circular isn't a long experience, clocking in at about 2 to 2.5 hours. The game was released on August 17, 2017 on Steam, October 23rd on iOS, and on March 1st, 2018 on Nintendo Switch, and developed by Bithell Games, also known for Thomas Was Alone and this game's follow-up, Quarantine Circular. Subsurface Circular retails for $5.99, and if you're looking for a fun mystery narrative with some themes of prejudices and insurgencies, I encourage you to check this out. Cave Crawler is a narrative analog horror adventure game where you control a survey drone. You're on a rescue mission to save a missing person trapped within the cave. As you find items left behind by the missing person, it becomes clear that perhaps you are too late. Without spoiling the mystery elements in this game, you'll find some red crystals found within the caverns, and as you dwell deeper within the depths, these crystals are more apparent and things will start to look unnatural. Cave Crawler is broken up into 4 different levels, each requiring you to find a set number of bodies of the Rockwell Mining Group's mining crew, while also offering a few optional world-building things for you to search for. Controlling the drone uses traditional tank controls, which can feel a bit stiff and clunky, but considering that the presentation is reminiscent of the 90s and dated technology, I think it works in its favor as far as immersion goes. Searching around the caves can get a bit disorienting if you're not keeping mental tabs on which way you go. I adore the analog horror presentation with the old VHS informational material, reporting about the cave and documenting the Rockwell Mining Group's efforts and discoveries between each levels. The small viewing window also enhances the immersion that you're controlling this drone from a distance. It does make you feel a bit safe that you yourself aren't physically inside this cave. The creepy stalagmites, stalactites, the limited sources of light, the dread of not knowing what's on the other side of the tunnel or what you'll find kept me on my toes on my first playthrough. There really isn't much music besides the low frequency music in between levels, however the ambient sound design is really well done, with the sounds of the drone's wheels and the mysterious horrors that wait for you inside the cave. Cave Crawler is a very short experience, clocking in at about 30 to 60 minutes. The game was released on April 13th, 2023 and was developed by Technomancy Studios and retails for $1.99 on Steam. If you're looking for a bite-sized analog horror experience to immerse yourself in, I encourage you to check this out. Placid Plastic Duck Simulator is a game with rubber ducks? Okay, it's more like an elaborate screensaver over anything, but Plastic Duck Simulator is a game where you admire a bunch of rubber ducks. No, really, that's it. The game doesn't really offer any input from the player. You can select which ducks to focus on, squeak the little duckies, or you can just sit in one of the chairs and admire your adorable collection. The game really does play by itself, so your enjoyment here may vary. Every few minutes, another duck will be added to the pool, and the anticipation about which duck will spawn next is always fun and exciting. And the ducks can range from simple hats, different colors, textures, to absurd ones like an alien or one made out of lava. Some ducks will also offer unique gimmicks, like the propeller hat one flying away or the dragon one breathing out fire. Some of these ducks can also have some interactions with each other, like lighting the plaid ones on fire. There are also a few ducks that will have unique quacking sounds when clicked on. All the ducks here are just really adorable and silly. Visually, this game is just so cozy. Like, I wish I could just swim in these pools with the rubber ducks all day. The time of day will pass over the course of 30 minutes, and the atmosphere of the pools will look so much fun at night as all the lights kick on. Each level also offers fun and unique elements as well, such as a second pool for the ducks to slide into, ice to skate and slide on, tunnels to be launched into, a gondola to ride. There's a handful of cute things that can happen, and it can be really exciting watching a duck slowly make their way to where you want them to go. Occasionally, things will happen randomly as well, like a UFO passing by across the pool. The music choice also varies by level, but there's a handful of chill, low frequency, and bouncy tracks included, along with a few radio commercials in other languages, which makes the atmosphere very relaxing and inviting. Ultimately, your enjoyment will depend if you're willing to just sit back and relax with this game. If you have a second monitor, this is very relaxing to look at while you get work done. The game does also offer a multiplayer feature if you and your friends want to gather together and admire a bunch of ducks. Or turn the slide into duck betting on which duck will make it to the slider tube first. You can also join in on random public lobbies as well. Placid Plastic Duck Simulator was released on July 6, 2022 on Steam, on all major current consoles on June 27, 2023, an iOS port on June 12, 2025, and an Android port soon to be released at the time of recording this. The game was developed by Turbolento Games. Placid Plastic Duck Simulator retails for $1.99 on Steam, with a few DLC bundles that include new ducks and pools, which are each also retailed at $1.99. On consoles, the game costs $8.99, but includes some of the earlier DLCs. But unfortunately, the later DLCs are $1 more at $2.99. If you want a game that you can throw on in the background and feel cozy with, I encourage you to check out Placid Plastic Duck Simulator. Quarantine Circular is a narrative adventure game that has you take in the role of multiple characters aboard the IDCF vessel out in the middle of the ocean. As the plague is spread across the globe, the research team on the ship is humanity's last hope to find a cure for the plague, and must also figure out what to do with Gabriel, an alien from another world. Much like its predecessor Subsurface Circular, Quarantine Circular plays very similarly. You communicate with the other characters, and you can choose on how you respond to them. Unlike Subsurface, which had you respond to a handful of passerby texts, there are only 6 characters in this story, but they all play a role. And your choices will have more consequences that will shape the narrative and ending. Some such as whether or not Gabriel trusts Mark at the beginning. Each chapter has you play as one of the characters, and it's up to you on how you want them to act within the story. Gabriel, an unknown alien from space, is believed to have brought the plague and is imprisoned on the ship under the crew's suspicion. Gabriel is also confined to the helipad with electric shocks. And despite the pandemic, at least world peace was achieved.
What year did this game come out in? 2018?
Man, world peace and collaboration between countries over a plague, and everyone wearing masks and working together to stop a virus? Man, what a concept. Communicating with the other characters will provide you with focus points, which can be used to gather further information from one of the other characters and be used to solve puzzles. While the story isn't long, the world building is very solid here. There's a foreboding tension throughout Quarantine Circular. The plague has killed millions, and the research team is running out of time and options on how to cure the virus as it spreads throughout Earth's water. This is further enhanced by the game's score, as the music makes each chapter feel more and more uncertain about the future. While there is a set route that the story will follow, regardless of your decisions, there are certain elements that can play out differently and lead to multiple different endings. Visually, this game also looks really good. The design of Gabriel looks really cool, though the human characters all do look interchangeable despite the color palettes. While we spend a majority of the time focused on the center of the screen, I really dig the game's UI interface and color-coded text boxes for each of the characters. There isn't much action, and characters sort of just stand around throughout the whole game. While the whole game is primarily set on the helipad of the vessel, the time of day passes each chapter, and it helps shape the atmosphere and tone as tension rises, accompanied by the game's soundtrack. Quarantine Circular can be played in one sitting at about 2 to 2.5 hours. The game was released on Steam on May 22, 2018, and on Nintendo Switch later that year on December 8th, and was developed by Bithell Games, which also worked on Thomas Was Alone and Subsurface Circular. Quarantine Circular retails for $5.99, and if you're looking for a narrative game with a foreboding yet hopeful atmosphere, then I recommend checking this one out. Orbo's Odyssey is a bite-sized 3D collectathon platformer where you play as Orbo, this armless dude who's trapped inside his boss's office with his coworker Peeb. This thing. Actually, Peeb is a really silly and adorable guy, and I love him. But in order to escape his boss's office, Orbo needs to collect 20 gears in order to build himself an arm and open the door. Okay, first and foremost, this game plays like a dream. Orbo moves so fast and fluidly, like he's just so much fun to control. How to make a good 3D platformer. Rule number 1, your character's super fun to control, and Orbo's up there with the greats. Orbo can wall jump, a slide, a floaty spin jump, fast fall, a drop dash, and a bullet launch move where he just flies around for a bit, which also doubles as a homing attack. Moving and flying around as fast as possible feels so exhilarating. Maybe at times he can go a little bit too fast, but these are so far and few in between that I really can't complain. There are 4 stages in Orbo's Odyssey. Each location will have 5 gears to collect, a la Power Stars from Mario 64. One of the gears in each level will be a time trial mission, flying through a handful of rings as fast as possible, and another gear is for collecting almost all the purple orbs in a level, and 3 stage-specific quests to complete. Each level isn't super huge, and almost all the space found in each stage serves a purpose. There are also a few secrets, lore, and Easter eggs for the player to find if they look around nooks and crannies. While there aren't too many to note at the time of recording this, the game does also offer community mod support as well. The sense of humor in Orbo is excellent and absolutely silly and hilarious. The game doesn't take itself seriously. The conversations between Orbo and the other characters are great, as Orbo's the more grounded character and he's put into absurd and silly situations, like feeding this executive guy green crystals, but as you carry the crystals, a Geiger counter sound can be heard. He wants to eat uranium cake. That's fantastic. Throughout the game, there's cardboard cutouts of stock images, and some of these are just ridiculous, and one of the missions has you searching around and knocking down a bunch of stock vampires. Orbo is canonically a vampire hunter. I will not spoil too many of the visual gags you can find here, but there's a lot of silly jokes scattered throughout this gem, and it makes Orbo's Odyssey so freaking charming. Visually, the game looks good. Each of the 4 stages have distinct landmarks, color palettes, and are drastically different from each other. The characters are all fun, silly, and goofy, if not at times, really cursed. And the soundtrack is very soothing, electric, laid back, and dreamy. Orbo's Odyssey is a very short game, clocking in at about an hour to an hour and a half. The game was released on Steam and itch.io on August 20th, 2023, and was created by Fever Dream Johnny. Orbo's Odyssey retails for $4.99, and if you're looking for a fun and silly collectathon with a lot of laughs, I highly recommend giving this one an afternoon of your time and checking it out. Emily is Away is a text-based visual novel where you communicate with your friend Emily via the ancient forms of communication. AOL Instant Messenger. If you remember this thing, you're entitled to a senior discount. First, you must make your username. And yeah, that sums up the 2000s experience. You and Emily are about to graduate high school and proceed on your own separate college paths. There are 5 chapters in the game, ranging from senior year of high school in 2002 to senior year of college in 2006. Each year, Emily messages you and fills you in about her life, such as how school is going, her boyfriend, and the music that she likes. There are multiple ways certain conversations can go. You can go the platonic route of establishing boundaries with Emily, or you can perform a speed run for incel any percent with such classics as, "You should break up with him," and "I wouldn't treat you like that." The game will keep tabs based on your decisions, such as whether or not to go to Travis's party or which college you choose to go to. However, the main story arc will always play out the same. When selecting your choices, you don't actually have to type your responses, but instead you can just simply smash your keyboard as the characters pop in. And honestly, I really admire the amount of detail on how natural the player's responses feel, backspacing for typos, or second guessing on how they word romantically implied messages before they send. There is something sort of cringe about the conversations here, mostly because as a teenager around this time, I too remember telling my friends, "What's up, the ceiling," or "Nothing much, just listening to music" through AIM back in the day. I won't spoil how the story ends here, but there is a melancholy feel about watching close friends drift apart over the years, and hitting the bedrock of a friendship where you literally have nothing left to talk about. The presentation is really cool with the recreation of the classic Windows XP design and AIM Messenger software, even giving the player the option to change the color of your messages and which pop culture icon from that year to pick from, which are all really cute details. There's no music in the game, just AIM and Windows XP sound effects, which I don't know if that's legal or not, but yeah, that's just a thing. Emily is Away is a very short experience at about roughly 25 minutes. The game was released on Steam on November 20th, 2015, and was developed by Kyle Seeley, who has worked on the sequels Emily is Away 2 and Emily is Away 3, which fleshed out the story and gameplay mechanics more. Emily is Away is free on Steam, and if you're looking for a short narrative with some 2000s nostalgia, I encourage you to give this game a moment of your time and checking it out. MacBat 64 is a bite-sized 3D collectathon platformer where you play as MacBat on a journey to save the Kiwibian Islands. The Watery Factory, just roll with it here, has stopped producing water, and with the help of this pirate parrot, you must search different locations to find 6 different keys to unlock the facility and restore the isles. There's honestly not much of a plot here, but MacBat 64 is a sequel to Kiwi 64, not to be confused with Super Kiwi 64, where the antagonist, the evil Melon King, seeks to destroy MacBat, Kiwi, and Kiwi Land, and you must stop him. Gameplay is super simple here. MacBat only moves and jumps. However, MacBat has an infinite amount of jumps, which means you can fly as high as the ceiling will let you. This can allow you to take shortcuts at times, or even go out of bounds and search for hidden Easter eggs. I'd say at times, I feel the camera can be a little too zoomed in, and playing MacBat with a keyboard wasn't the most comfortable experience, but these are just minor complaints. The game is made up of multiple levels. They're all really small and will only last a few minutes each, but each stage offers a few tasks for the player to complete, such as fetch quests for some of the NPCs, collecting coins to trade for a required item, or solving simple puzzles. These tasks are not hard at all and are very easy. Gameplay wise, I wouldn't say MacBat does anything special, and it can be a bit repetitive, but due to how short each level is, I feel they don't really overstay their welcome. The presentation is honestly MacBat's strongest feature. Visually, the game is just so charming, blending its inspirations of Donkey Kong 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards, and Diddy Kong Racing. There's a lot of visual callbacks here, but enough originality to make MacBat feel like its own spin on its inspirations. Each of the levels offers unique atmospheres and aesthetics, keeping the fun, bubbly charms of games of yesteryear. Also, there are 2 bonus levels that completely change the tone from family-friendly platformer to straight-up horror. Also, MacBat's a rather dapper lad if I do say so myself. The music here is also really fun and captures the silly and playfulness of the works of Grant Kirkhope. Speaking of Grant Kirkhope, they even got him to voice the monkey for this game. The humor is also charming and cute. There are a few silly jokes scattered around here that make it worth talking to every NPC just to see what they have to say. MacBat 64 isn't a long experience and should only take the player about an hour or so to finish. The game was first released on itch.io on July 23, 2015, and was available later on Steam and Nintendo Switch. The game was developed by Cyectro, who is mostly known for their work on the Toree games, along with Super Kiwi 64. MacBat 64 only retails for $1.99, and if you're looking for a short and cute platformer, I recommend checking this one out. Builder Simulator is, well, a builder simulator. In this game, you're given contracts to construct houses for a handful of different clients. There are 16 contracts, and each level has you construct different homes at different sizes, locations, and budgets. Though honestly, I would never have to worry about the budget, as this game gives you way more money than you'll ever need. Starting from digging out the ground, putting in sand, concrete, rhubarb, using cinder blocks to build exterior walls, insulation, setting up doors and windows, building a roof, followed by interior walls and plastering and smoothing out the inside. There's a handful of fun little tasks and minigames to do when building a house. There's a bit of a learning curve, and I recommend the tutorial missions when starting out. I wouldn't say the whole process is perfect, mind you. Creating more mortar for the exterior walls and having to go back and forth between the walls and adding more to the wheelbarrow can get a bit tedious. Wow, manual labor in a simulator about manual labor. What a critique, Fox. The final plaster step can ruin a whole house if you miss a single spot with the plaster gun, as you'll be searching around through white corridors trying to find what you missed. Re-smoothing a wall does not fix the spots unsmoothed. The game does take some creative liberties to make the construction process easier and less tedious, such as painting with incredibly long arms. I'd say that the levels can feel repetitive. Once you've done one house, you've basically done them all, as these levels could take anywhere from 1 to 3 hours to finish depending on the size. But there's a certain coziness of shutting your brain off and just having fun building a house. However, the game also lets you make custom houses for yourself. You can design your own house layout, whether you're building your dream home, or creating a crackdown in the cul-de-sac and setting the HOA into an uproar. It's really up to you and how you want to design your home. You can place furniture and appliances anywhere you like. So if you want a toilet right beside your kitchen sink, you totally can. You can also put in custom photos in all the picture frames as well, giving your dream home a je ne sais quoi to your humble abode. And you can take photos in game as well. Ultimately, your enjoyment will come down to if you want to invest hours into building a house just for yourself, as sadly there are no multiplayer features here. Visually, the game looks really nice. The locales the construction sites are on are all just very cozy. You can even walk around and see some of the scenery away from the job site if you so wish to. The music here is also really relaxing and cathartic as you just unwind and put together your home and OSHA violations. I put that in the script. Builder Simulator was first released on Steam on June 9th, 2022, and is also available on PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch, and was developed by Live Motion Games. The game retails for $19.99, and if you're looking for a cozy game where you can relax and build a few houses at your leisure, I encourage you to check this game out. Content warning before I begin: animal abuse. Canine is a bite-sized survival horror experience. You are a young boy who's on a mission to save his missing dog Tommy from the Umbral Clinic. Armed with you is Tommy's tennis ball and... yeah, no, that's it. As you enter the facility, it becomes clear that something sinister has taken place here. Within the Umbral Clinic, you'll find data entries of experimentations of creating a human-dog hybrid demigod, and finding a computer log mentioning about the other dogs that were abducted to be used as test subjects. Thankfully, Tommy hasn't been experimented on yet. There is this dog Ruben who... well, look at him. Status alive mutated. That's not good. There's a handful of optional world building and lore to find in the game if you look around for it. Eventually, you'll encounter Ruben patrolling around the area. He will be your only threat throughout the game. Inside the lab, there are 4 switches you must activate to open a door to escape, and each time you flip a switch, Ruben will start to move faster and faster. He will even start gunning you down if you're caught in his sights. Your only way of survival is by hiding or throwing Tommy's tennis ball to distract Ruben for a moment. He is a dog after all. Honestly, encountering Ruben is sort of nerve-wracking as you just hear footsteps from a distance at first, and seeing him from afar is really uncanny and eerie, which with the PS1 art direction, really enhances the tension here. It doesn't help that you're always trapped in tight corridors with him, and it's anxiety-inducing not knowing which corner he's hiding behind till he gets you. The game is generous to give you checkpoints every time you flip a switch, so death isn't super punishing. Your main objective is to escape. I found out that saving Tommy is optional. I mean, it's legally required to save Tommy. Like, look at him! He's such a good boy! You have to save him! Also, how buff is this child? A 5-year-old German Shepherd weighs at least like 80 pounds. Much like its Resident Evil inspirations, you are graded on your performance at the end of the game. Afterwards, you're hit with complete tonal whiplash as the game provides a PSA on adopting dogs, which, hey, I very much appreciate, but I'm still mentally recovering from dealing with Ruben here. The presentation here is really well done. I have a soft spot for PS1 style horror games, and Canine captures that aesthetic and atmosphere phenomenally. Tommy is precious and adorable, and Ruben is pretty terrifying and uncanny. The only thing missing from Ruben is that he is not saying Big Brother Edward. Sorry, I had to throw that joke in here somewhere. The few music tracks here are unsettling besides the comfort of the save room where you can collect more tennis balls should you lose yours. And the sound design is really immersive here. Canine is a very short experience. A playthrough should only take you about an hour to complete. The game was released on Steam, itch.io, and GOG on May 10th, 2023, and on Nintendo Switch, and was developed by Punko. Canine's prices vary upon platform, and if you're looking for a short horror experience involving doggos and good boys, I encourage you to check this out. Content warning, flashing lights and glitchy effects. The Enigma Machine is a short puzzle horror game where you play as a raid agent, traversing a simulated world called Dreamscape, or in other words, inside the mind of an AI android named DemOS. What's a raid agent? Well, that's something you'll just have to figure out for yourself. DemOS has lost their memories and is programmed to help you through these training exercises. But as you complete these trials, the AI will start to regain their memories and things will start to destabilize. Dramatically. The game is broken down into 2 chunks, talking with DemOS, learning about who they are, who they formerly were, about Dreamscape, and in-universe lore. In between the game's 4 levels, you'll have the opportunity to talk to DemOS if you so wish to. The other half is searching around these simulated levels and solving puzzles. The puzzles are finding a number code or solving interactive puzzles to find pieces of a number code, which are then combined and entered into the terminal. If you're like me and have the memory of a goldfish, you'll need a pen and paper to write these numbers down. I mean, the machinations of my mind are an enigma. Control-wise is a bit weird as you hold space in order to interact with things in a point-and-click style. DemOS will also communicate with you at times on the bottom left corner of the screen. Lighting can be a bit troublesome as there are a few instances of blindly walking around in the dark, which are mildly annoying in a puzzle game where exploration is very much needed. Despite that hiccup, visually this game looks really great. It has a fun PS1 aesthetic as texture mapping gets warped around objects. The glitchy VHS effects when things go horribly wrong are also really well done, though I do wish there was a photosensitivity option to make it easier for those who have sensitive vision. The UI for talking to DemOS is also really reminiscent of 80s and 90s technology, and it is fun how the calming elevator music gets dramatically distorted upon each level. The Enigma Machine is a short experience from roughly 1 to 2 hours depending on how fast you solve the puzzles. The game was released first on itch.io on October 28, 2018, and later on Steam, Nintendo Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. The title was developed by Enigma Studios, with Enigma Machine being the first in a trilogy, followed by the games Mothered and Echostasis. The game retails for $4.99 on Steam and itch.io, but unfortunately costs a bit more on consoles. If you're looking for a short, spooky puzzle game this Halloween season, I recommend checking this game out. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion is a comedic Legend of Zelda inspired adventure game where you play as Turnip Boy, who committed the biggest money life-saving felony of not paying his taxes. He is now in debt to Mayor Onion, who has taken his greenhouse and has given him tasks to complete until he has paid off his debt. Turnip Boy plays similar to your adventure game Affair, slaying a handful of enemies with a sword, solving puzzles, dwelling into dungeons, acquiring new items, defeating bosses, exploring new areas, completing side quests, and talking with the locals. It's all here. Combat here is very simple. Turnip Boy has a sword that he can use to defeat enemies. With some exceptions, enemies typically don't pose much of a threat to the player, though the lack of invincibility frames can lead to a few deaths, and the puzzles in this game aren't that difficult to complete. Turnip Boy also has a watering pail that he can use to water flowers, which can create bombs to be kicked, watermelon blocks to be pushed, or teleporters to zip through. The game has a few very simple dungeons that you will be exploring, each providing a handful of enemies and puzzles. You'll also acquire a new item halfway through, and each dungeon will have a boss battle requiring you to use said item. The boss battles are fun, and much like The Legend of Zelda, you're given an additional heart after defeating a boss, which is pretty nifty. There are also a handful of side quests. These are really just fetch quests of bringing a character a key item that they want, which they'll either reward you with a hat, a different item, or some paper for you to tear up. Which brings me to my next point. The humor is silly and nonsensical, and honestly Turnip Boy's strongest aspect. I love how Turnip Boy doesn't talk, but emotes with just 3 question marks or exclamation points. It just makes him so expressive without saying a thing. And I love that he's out here just committing crimes with his cute face. He's really giving off that Kirby with a knife energy. The dialogue from the characters is also silly and absurd. There's a handful of references and jokes scattered throughout this gem that had me cracking up. Even subtle things like item descriptions are great. In the game, you'll come across multiple documents, whether it's a receipt, Turnip Boy's tax bill, or a love letter that he's supposed to deliver. If it's made of paper, he's gonna rip it up. There's more in the late game that adds another layer of lore and absurdity to Turnip Boy, but I won't be spoiling it here. I really adore the presentation. The bold and cute art style for the character portraits, cutscenes, and UI is so colorful, pleasing, and fun. The pixel art is fantastic, and while the animations are pretty simple, they get the job done. And the music here is really catchy and bouncy. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion isn't a super long experience, clocking in at about 2 to 3 hours. The game was first released on Steam and Nintendo Switch on April 22nd, 2021, and was also available on Xbox One, iOS, Android, and on PS4. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion was developed by Snoozy Kazoo, who would make a sequel, Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, in 2024. The game retails for $14.99, and if you're looking for a short, cute, and silly Zelda-like, I highly recommend checking this out. The Yawgh is a short 2 to 4 local multiplayer choose-your-own-adventure RPG where you and your friends get to live out your lives, exploring around the town, and getting into fun situations and hijinks. However, in 6 weeks, the Yawgh, otherwise known as a giant cataclysmic flood, will arrive and destroy the town. Each player can select one location they wish to spend every week, and choose whether or not to work or partake in the local activities. Everyone reading along and seeing how that player's story unfolds for that week. While the events can be a bit mature, these stories are typically lighthearted, playful, and humorous at times. Often each situation will provide the player with a choice that can have positive or negative consequences, such as helping the sick or turning into a werewolf and tearing down a location, preventing anyone from exploring there throughout the rest of the playthrough. Each action will either add or remove your stats depending on where you go, what actions you choose to do, or if your character is capable enough for the task at hand. Each player will have their own stats of physique, finesse, mind, charm, magic, and wealth. These attributes can affect your character's chances for certain events playing out in your favor, like winning a fight with high physique, brewing an alchemic potion with high magic, or getting to spend the night with the fairest of damsels if you got the coin. After the 6th week, the Yawgh will wipe out the town, leaving behind rubble. Here, each player will have to work together and decide who is more qualified for which occupation based on their character's stats to save and rebuild the town. Or, if you want to sabotage the restoration efforts, become the town drunk or looter. Your decisions will affect whether the town prospers, manages, or withers to dust. Each player will also get their own epilogue based on their stats and on the town's condition. I really love the pleasing and soft art direction this game has here. The character designs are all just fun and colorful, and the UI is super easy on the eyes. The writing here is also really engaging and fun paired with the visuals. The dialogue about the Yawgh coming is also pretty spine-chilling on a first read, especially if you fail the town. The city bled survivors, eventually becoming a husk, a dead thing, and perhaps the Yawgh was only partially to blame. Good stuff. The music is also fantastic as it really ramps up the tension as the weeks pass by and the Yawgh is approaching, adding a sense of dread and foreboding hopelessness for the events to come. The Yawgh is a short experience. A playthrough should only take about 15 to 20 minutes, but its short runtime does offer replayability for seeing different outcomes and trying to build your characters differently. All players can also share one controller or keyboard in order to play. The Yawgh was released on Steam on May 30th, 2013, and the game was created by Damian Summer and E.M. Carroll. The Yawgh retails for $9.99, and if you're looking for a fun local multiplayer for you and your family and friends this holiday season, I recommend checking this one out. The Red Lantern is a narrative survival roguelite where you take control of a sled team of dogs on your way to your new home. However, simply sledding across the Alaskan wilderness won't be that easy. First and foremost, you must form a team of precious doggos. The player will always start with Chomper, the musher's personal dog, but you can select 4 additional dogs out of 8. Each dog will have their own attributes, such as Iggy being protective of the team. Each dog will also have their own personal side quests as well, like Barkley learning how to bark and not bite at everything he sees. Also, in case if you're wondering, yes, you can in fact pet the precious puppers. On your journey, you'll have a few things to manage, such as you and your dog's hunger meters, how much spare meat, bullets, birchwood, and med packs you have. You'll also have to be careful as you and your dogs can also sustain injuries and tiredness. You're going to be running into a lot of problems very quickly if you run out of any of your supplies. Hunting animals, especially larger ones, will be a necessity in order to make it out alive. You are bound to not make it on your first few attempts. You get to decide on which direction and path your sled team goes. This will lead to different events and encounters, such as different animals to observe and obliterate, coming across man-made cabins to search through, fighting trees to harvest wood, or hostile animals to fend off. There's a handful of different interactions which the musher will document in her journal at the end of each run. As you explore more encounter events, you're given more supplies at the start of each run. You will also come across items such as an axe, fishing pole, or booties for your dogs, which will be permanent upgrades and carry over on future runs. The art direction and visuals are stylized and the wilderness looks really nice. And of course, the cute doggos are absolutely precious. The music is also really immersive and calming. The writing is not my favorite aspect. The plot is about finding yourself and where you belong, and that's a great premise. However, we're playing the role of a certified yapper who talks her thoughts out loud every 5 seconds. There'll be times where she's optimistic and then uncertain in the same line of thought, and then she starts cracking quirky Marvel-esque quips and jokes a minute later, and it just takes me out of the severity, and it's just tonal whiplash. That said, it doesn't ruin the game, but if it gets too much, just lower the voice in the options. The Red Lantern is a moderately short game. A successful run can last about 45 minutes, but it will probably take the player a few attempts, or about 2 to 3 hours to finally make it to the cabin for the first time. The game also offers some replay value if you want to see what other encounters you've missed, and fill out the journal and complete the optional dog quests. The Red Lantern was released on Nintendo Switch and the Epic Games Store on October 22nd, 2020, and on Steam December 8th, 2021. The game was developed by Timberline Studios. The Red Lantern retails for $24.99. If you're looking for a cozy narrative roguelite with a bunch of cute doggos, I recommend checking this one out. Thank you so much for watching this whole compilation. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to leave me a like, comment, subscribe. Tell me, was there any games in this compilation that made you want to go throw it on your Steam wish list? I'd love to hear it. Yeah, this was a lot of fun to do. I really enjoyed putting the shorts together and putting the compilation together. I have at least 14 other shorts already written and recorded. I just need to edit them together, and I'm going to try to do weekly uploads again. I also am going to try my best to get back into making regular content on my channel, like regular reviews. I do have one that's in the works. It's more of like it's for a niche Nintendo. It's not niche, it's just an overlooked Nintendo game. But that should be fun to do. There's also a bunch of other games I really would love to just yap about. I just need to like push myself to make the scripts and just start covering them. But you know, I'm gonna try my best to get back on track with making stuff again. I think this is probably my 7th or 8th hiatus now. Yeah, I'm very bad at that. Thank you if you subscribe to me whenever and you still remember that you subscribed to me and you're watching this. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate it. It's really fun to do this and I want to do more of it. I just have to maintain a full-time job on top of it. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you in the next one. All right, friend, stay safe and take care.